It is a crucial week in the financial markets. Biden and McCarthy are going to meet this afternoon. Joe's going to go for the early bird special at IHOP, and then they're going to get down to business. We'll hop into all of that and more in today's show. Before we get going, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. Nothing that Kevin or I say is financial advice. We're not financial advisors. We're for you guys who love following the markets, nerding out on economics, and please do your own research when you make any buys or sells. That's all I ask of you. So, lots to talk about today, Kev. Big week ahead. We have a lot of Fed presidents speaking. We have some economic data coming out. We're kind of at the tail end of earnings season, but there's still a few important ones to look at there. We have the debt ceiling. That's what everyone's focused on at this point. We have an interesting survey to discuss today on what that means of the health of the consumer. Where do you want to start? How do we want to begin today's show?
Let's do the health of the consumer. I thought that was really important information you sent me earlier today, so dive into that.
Okay, so the annual survey of household economics and decision-making came out today. This is a yearly survey, hence the term annual. I probably didn't need to explain that, but here we are anyways. They started doing this back in 2014, so this is like the 10th year of it. The numbers were not great, okay? So a few things that stuck out. 73% of adults say they were doing at least okay financially in 2022. That's down 5% from 2021. This is a really bad one. 35% of adults said that they are worse off financially than a year earlier. And that is the highest number that question has ever received, or that answer has ever received since the survey began in 2014. So that is not good. There was some information around, the largest emergency expenses a lot of households could afford. That number came in really bad. There was 18% said that like less than $100 they had in savings that they could put toward an emergency expense. So overall, what this is telling us is Americans are very much living paycheck to paycheck. Inflation is hitting in a big way. Savings are not going great. We're seeing similar kind of stuff coming out around housing and why people are forced to rent at this point. This is all setting up to be a potential disaster. We tossed around the idea last week on our show of stagflation, right? That increased unemployment, increased inflation with reduced demand. These numbers are pointing to that being a possibility. The last time we saw stagflation, we've only seen it once in U.S. history. That was in the 70s, basically a lost decade. I really hope we don't see that happen again. Lord knows I don't know how we avoid something like that or if we're going to see it, but it's not a good situation to be in where we have so many people who are in such rough shape financially, and it's not going to get better anytime soon. We can transition from that into some of the talks from the Fed presidents. We've had 4 different Fed presidents talk this morning. 2 of them believe that we still need to increase rate hikes. Bullard, who is just notoriously the most hawkish Fed president out there, he doesn't vote this year, but very hawkish. He stated today that he thinks we need 2 more rate hikes, and he's advocating for we do those sooner than later. I'm kind of on the same page with him there. We're seeing about 75% chance of no rate hike at the June Fed meeting, 25% chance of a 25 basis point hike. Bullard thinks we need to do it sooner than later. The other Fed president who spoke today, he stated that there's a case for skipping this meeting, not hiking in June, and then potentially hiking again in July. I think just the sooner the better, but these guys are smarter than me apparently, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, it's honestly, it just ripped the Band-Aid off. Again, we're prolonging the inevitable if we continue to just, do 25 or maybe not even raise for a month. Like, obviously, these things take time to go into effect. Like, we're starting to see the effect of, some of the rate hikes that were issued back in, May of last year. So, obviously, you want to get ahead of this more than anything because we're throwing 25s out. 25s aren't nearly as strong as 50s or 75s. We're seeing, like you said, the consumer sentiment seems like it's extremely low. We're not seeing enough demand, and people don't have enough funds on hand to be, driving this economy into, a bull market, say. But again, that's the majority of people based off that survey. Based on the markets, obviously the sentiment's a little bit different. It seems like even though the volume is extremely low, there is still some money coming in, which is really strange. But I completely agree with Bullard that we need to be raising sooner than later. Again, we don't want it to be stagflation where we don't do enough soon enough to the point where we're just in this, this limbo of absolute hell where unemployment starts to finally rise, and inflation still remains extremely sticky. So I don't know, man. We still need to see unemployment rise for it to be stagflation, but for the time being, it's like it seems like we're heading in the direction of it 100%.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we have 4 different Fed presidents spoke today. Tomorrow we have another Fed president. We have some new home sales data. That's not usually anything too earth shattering. On Wednesday, we have another Fed governor speaking. We have the May FOMC minutes. From an earnings standpoint, we have Nvidia reporting Q1 earnings. They've been one of the top moving stocks so far this year, up like 100%. They're going crazy. Everything AI focused, which we'll talk about AI here in a second. Thursday, we have the revision for Q1 GDP. Not sure if we're going to see much movement there. We have initial jobless claims. We have some home sale data. We also have the other big earnings report this week, and that's Costco, kind of seeing the health of the consumer in that one, how Costco reports. They are usually a good indicator of how consumers are doing, where they're spending their money. And then Friday is the big day this week. We have personal income, personal spending, and the Fed's preferred inflation measurement of PCE. So that is all happening Friday. So there's a lot going down there, a lot to keep our eyes on. But we said at the top, it's all about the debt ceiling. Will they reach an agreement on the debt ceiling? The date that the government is supposed to run out of money depends on who you ask. Janet Yellen is saying June 1st. We have some other people from the Fed saying it could be up to June 15th. But either way, they got to figure something out. Biden cut his trip to Asia short. He was supposed to go to, I believe, New Guinea and New Zealand. He cut that short to get back and talk with McCarthy. The last time we spoke, Republicans had walked out of a meeting with the president's assistants to try to figure something out. McCarthy and Biden spoke on the phone. They're meeting today at 5:30 Eastern. Of course, they're waiting until after the markets close to do it. So we could see some fireworks in the after hours and in crypto markets because, those things never close. So that is going to be an interesting one to keep our eye on. Can they move closer to a deal? Could they potentially reach a deal? Is that going to be bullish or bearish for the markets? I think a lot of people are assuming it's bullish for the markets. I'm of the belief it's a buy the rumors, sell the news kind of situation. Like the markets have priced in so damn much on the positive side, Kevin. They've priced in Fed hikes. They've priced in no Fed rate increasing in June. They've basically priced in a debt ceiling deal. So at this point, like what is what's going to push the markets up further? And I don't really know.
If you want to know how stupid these fucking markets are, look at the dollar and look at how everything is remaining stagnant. The dollar should be dropping right now because it is overvalued on the daily. However, for some reason, it continues to be strong against risk assets. We're looking at 103.2 right now. Sure, it came down a little bit from Friday, but I expected us to be under 103 today. And it's insane how, again, the markets have absolutely priced in everything. And I always say this, the only thing that's priced in the markets is you. There's going to be a point where good news is not going to be good news. All right. It's absolutely, bad news has been good news. Bad news has been bad news. But for good news has never been good news.
It's really
wild.
Kevin, it's really interesting when you look at the fact that the dollar is basically flat on the day, but tech stocks are having a strong day. We're seeing Google up almost 2%, Tesla up just under 5%, Meta up 1.5%, Coinbase up 7%, PayPal up 3.3%.
Wow.
For those who are fairly new to our show or haven't heard it before, when the dollar is basically inverse of risk assets, right? So tech stocks being some of the riskiest ones out there. If tech's having a huge day, you would expect the dollar to be coming down if people are moving more into tech stocks, but it's not. It's remaining very resilient even with those tech stocks. And that to me just tells me that, we're going to keep seeing the dollar going up. And at some point, the levee is going to break and we're going to start to see these tech stocks come back down. They have to. They're overbought. They're over frothy right now. They account so many of these, a handful of them account for so much of the move up in the S&P and in the NASDAQ this year. It's not sustainable. It has to come back. Meta being up, what is it now? Meta's up 150% from the end of October lows. Meta was trading for $100.10 at the end of October when our boy Jimmy Cramer cried about the fact that he trusted these people and they pulled the rug out from under him. Meta is up $150 a share since that time. That's ridiculous. That cannot sustain. I don't really know what else there is to say on that point, but I'm still just I'm going to be patient. I'm going to be patiently bearish and wait for an opportunity to deploy capital because I'm not doing it into this market right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, looking at Meta, what happened last night with Meta? Instagram was down, right? And then today we find out that they have to pay $1.5 billion for transferring EU data over to the United States. That shouldn't be bullish, but today we're seeing a green candle. It's up 1.6%. The markets are 100% not worried about the macro, and it's just about this debt ceiling. This is the buy the rumor, sell the news. It's what we've been saying for days. You know what I mean? And it's to a point where we're extremely overbought. And what else is going to push it up? Like you said, there's nothing else. We're seeing consumers who don't have money to be putting into the markets. We're just going to see people who are going to buy in too late, and then the markets are just going to absolutely tank. I think short positions, if to be honest, are probably being mass like crazy right now. Even though we're seeing the price push up, like even in crypto, like I was telling you about Tron, we're seeing massive short positions open up, negative funding, but the price continues to push up. Are we seeing these short positions start to finally build up, and that's why we're starting to see a little bit of technically a short-term squeeze? Maybe, but I don't see a way where if the United States does come to an agreement, or if they don't come to an agreement, it's bullish for the market in any way. I think that we're going to see negative price action regardless of whatever comes of this entire McCarthy, Biden, Janet Yellen bullshit.
Yeah, we also have like the 2-year treasury is up on the day while tech is moving up and while the dollar is staying flat. The S&P is retesting 4,200 again. It failed that test the last 2 times. Let's see if this is the one or if it finally gets sent down to hell.
4201.
Yeah, it's 4201. It got up to it's just chilling there. It was up there earlier. It came back down to like 4190. Now it's back.
That's Wile E. Coyote right there. Just realized that gravity exists. Just can't wait till it realizes it. It's going straight. It's straight down.
Okay, so that is everything kind of looking at the week ahead, some of the stuff today. Are there any charts that you want to look at that you feel like are worth our time at the moment? Because otherwise, like this market is just boring. Like,
yeah, it's been pain in the ass.
It's so boring. Everything is just between, down a quarter of a point and up half a point, with the Dow, the NASDAQ, and the S&P. It's really boring. Even crypto is just like range bound. It's stuck. ETH is stuck in this 1,800 range where it's been for quite a while. Outside of like some, random spikes up and then comes right back down. Like it's just glued to this low 1,800s number. It's going to take, it's got to fall first before people want to give it another shot. Like that's the thing is like there are people waiting to buy, but there's no one rushing or like waiting to buy when it goes lower, but there's no one rushing in to buy right now. So like volumes are low. I don't know what's going to push it up past 2K again.
I don't see anything. I'll be honest with you. I want to pull up one chart, something that's up 5.14% today in crypto. So a little bit more exciting than ETH. But again, I think it's an absolute Ponzi. That's Tron. We'll call it a Tronzi. This is BS. Look at this thing. This is on the daily. This is the past few days for Tron, right? It was right around 7 cents. Obviously, it shot up to this level here. This is, let's say, from here to there. It's up about 13% in the past 3 days, which is absolutely wild considering how range-bound, Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these other alts have been. But I want to look at this hourly chart. Look at this hourly chart. That's the fucking Burj Khalifa. Like it's just absolute BS. Look at how this is just climbing straight up. 100%. This is a market maker pattern. We talk about this all the time. We see high demand real quick, then we start to see a bit of consolidation. High demand real quick, consolidation. High demand real quick, kind of consolidation. But the good thing is here that we're not seeing this bearish formation like the bull flags. Where we're seeing lower highs and lower lows. That kind of ultimately means there is going to be a squeeze and it pushes up. We're at the top of this, I think, and maybe we push up a little bit further to about 8 cents. But I mean, this is 100% one of the most manipulated moves I've seen over the weekend and seen in a while. Like funding rates yesterday were negative 0.05%, which means a lot of people were opening up shorts against Tron. What could this potentially mean? Maybe maybe Tron is putting a short against their own supply. We don't know. We'll see. But I think a lot of people are seeing how fast this is moving up, and they're seeing this pattern. It's like, okay, this is most likely going to see the same exact thing on the downside. It's going to trap anyone who, got excited by the one coin that was pushing up while everything else was just moving sideways. Again, it's been crab the entire weekend, nothing really exciting. We finally saw some volatility in Bitcoin right around the weekly close, but for the most part, this has been absolutely boring in this market. We saw massive volume coming here too, if you look at the hourly. But if we look on the daily, volume that pushed the price up that much, that's absolutely not even, I wouldn't even consider that high compared to where, volume it was over here for sell volume. So I don't think this is going to be long lasting. I think that we are going to find ourselves hitting the top of this parallel channel. And again, it's very nice that it's pumping into that ceiling, along with, there's a lot of people who are speculating that Hong Kong is going to make altcoins available for people to start trading starting June 1st. I've been seeing a lot of things where they're trying to FOMO people in the Tron, where it's like, will Tron become the what do you call it, reserve currency of Hong Kong or China? I'm like, first off, shut the hell up. That's absolute BS. Quit trying to get people to buy into this. But it's all over Twitter. I just Googled TRX.
I heard it. I heard Pepe is going to be the reserve currency of Hong Kong.
You mean Frog Kong? I don't know. That was a terrible joke. I'm sorry.
That was pretty bad. Okay.
Yeah, but it's absolutely, this is Ponzi in my opinion. I don't like how this pattern is looking. We saw the same thing. I mean, this is literally the same exact pattern that we saw with Bitcoin from the move up from 16K. Like here, I'll just pull up Bitcoin real quick. Let's go to the daily. It's massive shoot up, consolidation shoots up. We had a little bit of fear right around here, but then it shot up again. And now we can see it on this side too. Massive shoot up, consolidation, shot up, consolidation, shot up one last time. So it's 3 waves to the upside, and that's where we saw the top for 31K for Bitcoin. And now we're just waiting to see if this plays out the same on the other side. Right now, I believe we're in the consolidation phase, which is the wave 2 going into the wave 3. We saw a little bit of consolidation here. I think that's where we are. The markets, however, are just being a little bit more resilient because they are waiting on news to actually trade. There's like the amount of execution that we're not seeing in the markets is 100% based on news that we're anticipating. That we're trying to trade this major event that could potentially be a black swan, or maybe not. It's going to be a major event, but I think a lot of people are trying to see if maybe the deal might be bullish. I don't see it that way. I think if anything, this is just, a lot of people were able to.
If everyone sees it coming, it's not a black swan.
It's
for the most part.
It's true, but either way. I
still think it's going to send markets down, but I don't think it's going to be, like an extinction level event kind of a thing.
Well, say they actually do default, right? That could be the black swan, because everyone's like, no, in the last 5 minutes, it'll be fine. But it's like, I don't know, man. I'll give 5% probability that they do default, just because I'm open to the idea of them just being so fucking stubborn and just not getting anything done. Again, Biden said he's not going to help the wealthy tax cheats and the crypto traders when, they're starving people in America. But feel free to send all my money to Ukraine from all the capital gains that I've been, been paying to the United States government in the past 2 years. Don't send it to anyone who's starving in the United States. But to say less, I think that we could see something. That would be the black swan, that 5%. I do think that regardless, we are going to see that negative price action. And again, we're in a consolidation period right here. You're always going to follow the trend when you're consolidation, putting in these continuation patterns. And obviously we're in a trend to the downside. We've lost this weekly low. So obviously if this is resistance, we're going to have to come down and find support. We're going to probably fill this gap right here, which is down to 25,280. Again, we were talking about that weeks ago. And it's kind of nice that the 200 EMA on the daily is actually kind of coming up there. We can see on the weekly where the 200 EMA is. 200 EMA is around 24. So again, we might see a wick down there. But I do think that we are probably going to come down below this 50 EMA. It's just a matter of time. We're seeing volume is extremely low. The only thing that kind of concerns me is that the stochastic RSI for Bitcoin is kind of coming down pretty fast, but we haven't made much progress to the downside. I would like to see something where it's just a massive red candle, similar to what we saw on the other side, just so we can kind of justify that we are in this, impulsive structure to the downside. For right now, it just seems like the thing that's holding us back is news in itself. So For Bitcoin, I have not taken profit on any of my shorts. I still think that we have to test 23 to 25K. If there's a massive sell-off, we see something like the U.S. loses credit rating, we see it like a 20% drop from where everything is. I could see us going down to 20K. I think that would be extreme support, and it would honestly, if we're using patterns, 20K is right around here. We got support here if we went on the weekly, but if we look on the daily, that head and shoulders pattern, which formed on the one side, came down to 20K through SIVB. Wouldn't be surprised if that's forming us for another the right shoulder on this side where we rally for a few months before we start to see the true big come down for majority of markets. So it'll be really interesting to see how this news plays out. Markets seem like they are pricing in positive news just because who really thinks they're going to default? Again, that's why it's a 5% black swan that could happen. But for the most part, I think optimism is a disease that is going through the markets right now, and it's currently the thing that's holding it up. So not much to say in terms of Bitcoin and any other altcoins, but it's definitely going to be something where it's like we're on thin ice and it's going to go. And when it does go, it's going to be pretty impulsive.
Yeah, we talked last week that even if they reach a deal, but it's so close to the wire that the U.S.'s credit rating is impacted. We've seen back in 2011 that caused a 20% move down in the indexes. I wouldn't be surprised if that led to a 30 to 40% move down in Bitcoin and even higher in the alts, obviously. So it's like that brings sub 20K Bitcoin into play. Because a 40% move down in Bitcoin right now, that would put it around like just under 17,000. Like that would be a huge move down. Not saying that that'd be like all in one candle, but it could happen. Like we've seen big moves down in the S&P before when the credit rating gets hit, and Bitcoin hasn't really been around for anything like this. So we don't that's why everyone assuming that going into, everyone keeps talking about this freaking halving cycle. We don't know, we've seen halving cycles go well when it was in a bull market for over a decade, but we haven't seen how Bitcoin responds to a prolonged bear market. Like there have been crypto winters, there have been periods where crypto has been, dead, but they haven't seen anything like this. And so I think anyone who's telling you that they know exactly what's going to happen with crypto, all the moon boys saying that, we're going back to 30K soon and eventually 40K. And, by the end of this year is a magnet, whatever, blah, blah, blah bullshit. It's just not true because they just don't know what to expect. Like no one does.
Yeah. And again, I always pull this up, but 2008 was 15 years ago. Most of these motherfuckers were, pimple-faced kids in high school at the time. What do they know about economics, right? They're betting on frog coins and stuff like that. I'm not trying to discredit anyone, but it's like what we saw in 2008 in terms of how high, the federal funds rates were and where we are now is a big difference. I mean, obviously we increased the rates in 1 year. I think what was it, like 6,000% is from zero all the way up to what is it right now, 5.25 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, within 1 year, we don't know how that's going to affect the markets in the next 6 months. We really don't. I mean, this could absolutely break the banking sector. This could destroy, real estate. We just have to wait and see. But again, this is an asset that didn't exist back then. Now it does. And, if we're seeing, let's say majority of people that are holding there's more people that are holding Bitcoin than there are whales, right? So let's say that all the people who have less than 0.1 Bitcoin have to sell off because they have no money on hand. That's going to absolutely dent the market. Like that's just a huge percentage of people that are going to absolutely be fearful and need cash on hand, and they're not going to want to trust any risk assets at the time. So it's going to be really interesting to see, but I don't believe that the halving cycle means literally nothing to me. And it's just going to be something where it's like, this will be the history of how Bitcoin and all these altcoins will react in recessions and, times of financial crises. This is going to be, historic. And I hate to say historic because, again, we're living through it, but it really will be because this is the first time that Bitcoin is going to be going through something this financially troubling.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I think that about wraps it up for today. I guess one other thought I had to kind of go with the debt ceiling deal of, buy the rumor, sell the news is like, we still don't know what kind of compromises are going to be made to reach a deal and how that in turn is going to impact the economy,
Yeah.
right? Like we don't know how much money that the government would be pumping into the U.S. economy is going to have to be reined in to get the Republicans to agree to something. So I think that's another case, another point toward seeing the markets come down once we finally have a deal. So it's just a good time to be patient. It's a good time to step back, have a long-term perspective on this, have cash on hand, which unfortunately most people don't, to buy dips when they happen because they're going to happen, and really just hunker down and use this as an opportunity to accumulate assets, to grow your wealth, because no one's going to do it for you. You got to do it yourself. You got to make moves. You have to be willing to, kind of eat some shit for a while if you want to see this turn into, if you want to see that plate of shit turn into ice cream sandwiches. That's a saying I just made up right now. You're welcome.
Biden would love an ice cream sandwich right now.
Well, like I said, that's why,
Biden, they're gonna have to write that in the deal.
They got to go to Friendlies to get. I don't know if you've ever been to the East Coast, but Friendlies is an ice cream shop chain out on the East Coast. Maybe Biden's got to go to Friendlies, get himself a banana split before he and McCarthy meet up to discuss the debt ceiling. That's kind of what my guess is right there.
Gotta love the human defecator. Oh man, this is I can't wait to see what comes of this meeting. But at the same time, it's like I really don't care. I know where the markets are gonna. I know the market's going to go to shit. Again, not just financial advice, but
being a fly in the wall on that one sure would be something. All right. Yeah. That's going to do it for today. We'll be back tomorrow. We're keeping an eye on everything between now and then. Biden, McCarthy, 5:30 Eastern. Those meetings have been lasting for about an hour roughly. So by 6:30 Eastern, we should have an idea of what's, maybe a little bit more of an idea. See some movement in the markets. I'm expecting to see, movement one way or another in Bitcoin, ETH, altcoins. Maybe the futures markets are still open or the after hours are still going by then. So
we'll
see how it all plays out.
Yeah. Watch out for AI because the Pentagon was not bombed.
Oh God, that was another thing. Yeah. That was ridiculous. That was absolutely ridiculous. Markets, 500 million, was it 500 billion swing in the markets based off of a fake picture based off of an AI picture. That's crazy. That's going to do it for today. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. If you have not yet, please do us a favor. I'm losing my voice here. Don't make me do it in vain. I really, really need your help. Go down below, hit that like button, the subscribe button, drop a comment. And if you would be so gracious, and this is the one that means a world to us, hit that share button, text it to a friend, email it to a colleague, put it out on social media. Whatever you can do would mean a ton to us. We really appreciate it. Appreciate all the support. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. Take care. Be safe. We'll see you later.
Take care, everyone.